For this video, I'm going to start off with my own working definition of what it means to be a beginner, intermediate, and advanced. So when you first started hoop dancing or first saw it, you were just thinking, wow, that's so cool. Like, that person just did the next trick, and oh look, the person just did another trick already. That's so cool. It just flows really quickly. When you started to actually become a beginner, you learn the basics. It's like math. You learn the importance of certain numbers. When you start to do tricks and you can actually look at someone's performance and be like, oh wow, that is like, they're doing a halo. Okay, now they did something else, but look, now they're doing a bottom halo or a bow. So doing that as a beginner, you are now learning adding and multiplication. You're putting tricks together and seeing how it could be incorporated into the hooping world. You become intermediate when you can look at someone's performance or a tutorial before they break down the trick and say, oh my god, okay, that looks like they're doing a corkscrew, but it's mixed with a helicopter with a certain style. Like, you put tricks together, two and two together, to make a new trick. This is important because it helps you learn your own tricks and figure out how someone else does a trick if you're just watching performances. As far as math goes, this is when you start to add or you start to multiply and divide. To go to the advanced stage where you do calculus and stuff like that, it's really your own definition if you want to, like, if you consider yourself advanced or not. I once considered myself advanced because I had reached a year and I was like, well, there's nothing left to learn. But a professional later told me, you never stop learning. And it's true, because if you're teaching in class, you learn style from the people you're teaching. You have a different flow with different music, or maybe you decide to switch current. Maybe you decide to get a poly pro or two or minis or doubles or fire hooping, and you're always learning. So because she said that, I now consider everybody an intermediate. But if you have to put a label on it to your own definition of when you are an advanced, then I'm going to say when you can no longer be a beginner and be like, okay, well, you know, like, I just did a corkscrew. Yes, I got it down. Okay, now do a helicopter. Am I doing it right? It doesn't look right. Okay, this is weird. When you can go from doing a certain trick, like for more than 5 seconds and thinking about it, all the way to doing a trick once very quickly or twice very quickly, and then move on to something without thinking about it. You're just doing a trick, you're like, okay, now do a corkscrew. Now my hand is doing this, and the hoop wants to do this with it, so I'll just follow what the hoop wants to do. Like, you're actually dancing, you're actually listening with your hoop and dancing with the hoop and not thinking and being in flow. That's what I consider advanced. But if you were to say, oh, I've been hooping for 2 years, it really doesn't mean anything, because you could be hooping for 2 years and have a total practicing time of 2 months or less. So the next thing is, what are certain hoops good for? Beginners. Beginners are going to have the big, giant, heavy hoops, and this is good because big hoops are going to mean that it's going to come around slower. A rotation is going to be a little bit longer. But because it's heavier, it's going to be even slower. But because these are beginner hoops, and beginners should get big, heavy hoops, and look at my video, my how to pick a perfect hoop, this is going to be specifically for beginners. When you decide to maybe have a light hoop is going to mean that it's going to do slow rotation still, but you're going to kind of flow with the music and just dance with it slowly, maybe learn a new trick. If you decide to get a light hoop and a smaller size hoop, then this is when you kind of start to get in the rhythm, be a little bit faster. If the size is actually really small, then small light hoops, or even if it's just a small hoop, are really good for ISOs, which is basically meaning isolation tricks, or breaks or pops or anything like that. And that's what those are good for. It really has no dependence on your skill level. The hoop does not make the hooper. It's the hooper that practices that makes the hoop. That is it as far as hoop sizes and weights and what they're good for. So big, heavy, thick ones are for beginners. Light ones, usually for people who just want to be in the flow, learn a trick and whatever. And light hoops and small hoops are good for breaks, ISOs, and do cardio as well. Are hoop sizes really related to your level? So as I sit back here, I'm going to say that, again, hoop size doesn't make the level or the hooper. So I'm going to start with beginner, and I'm going to say, okay, I have a big, giant, heavy hoop. I know it's not something that I really like, so I know I need to get something lighter. So you start to take a step forward in your progress, and you get a lighter hoop. So as you're practicing with a lighter hoop, you're thinking, maybe I should get a smaller size hoop as well, since I'm progressing. So you get a smaller size hoop. Then you decide to do a light and small hoop, and you do lighter, smaller hoop. And by the time you put yourself forward and say, okay, I'm gonna gamble and get a really small light hoop, that's kind of when you also are in a little bit of an advanced stage. You know what you can handle, and you're willing to take the risk as well. So this is when a lot of hoopers decide to actually stop going smaller. They like the small size, they like the lightness of it. However, even though you see a lot of people with light, small hoops that are advanced, there are still a lot of advanced people that actually prefer their intermediate hoop or their beginner hoop. So it really is just your own preference. And that is it as far as hoop sizes, hoop levels, and your own level as well.